This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the October meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District. To start, let's have a pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Leslie.
Board Chair Mark Finkel.
Here.
Second Vice Chair Alfred Candia.
Here.
Board members Alfred Hayes.
Here.
Alfred Hayes, sorry about that. Richard Byrd.
Here.
Timothy Reagan.
Here.
First Vice Chair Ken DeWitt yet? Not yet. Board member Nicole Allen.
Here.
Executive Director John Callahan.
Here.
General Counsel Robert Leslie. Chief Engineer Robert Fulton.
Here.
Chief Fiscal Officer Timothy Minicha.
Here.
And the Director of Administrative Services Stephanie Rizicki.
Here.
And I'd like to recognize a former board member here with us today in the audience, David Berger.
No. Okay, we need a motion to adapt or revise the meeting agenda, and we're not going to, motion to adopt, and please note that we have an executive session at the end of this meeting. Make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hayes, Mr. Candia.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Introduction of guests. As you know, we have, for presentation, we have Arcadis here for later on in the, and public comment period. Do we have anybody who wants to?
We did have at least one member of the audience that wanted to say a few
Okay.
words.
About a week ago, I found out that the DEC is preventing people from taking their docks out of the lake or putting them in at the boat launches. And that's a relatively major problem for companies that do that work. We have several hundred docks on the lake. Many people try to take their docks out of the lake. I've been encouraging them to do that, but at least get it above the top of the spillway, because we haven't been very successful in keeping the lake water down during the winter. And when those docks freeze, in that we get a lot of damage. I know that the district gets many complaints about all the damage that's being done on that. If we can get the docks out of the lake and put them back in, we prevent that damage. And if the people are willing to do that, there are a handful of companies that will take the docks out and put them. Unclear what the reason that they're saying that we can't do it. We've been told that the state law prevents it, and we've been doing it for years, so they basically say it's a boat launch, not a dock launch. I think that's a very narrow interpretation of what the purposes is. This issue came up about 5 years ago. The compromise was that they can't take them out or put them in during the weekend or the prime time sort of the day. What these contractors have been doing is taking the dock down and tying them up near the boat launch so that they can come early in the morning or late in the evening and remove these docks when people aren't using. I think that's a reasonable compromise. These businessmen are now being fined when they tie the docks up to the trees along shore. I would like the district to work with the DEC, to reach a compromise. You know, a good part of the economy for the towns around the lake is the use of the lake. And we have hundreds of boats, hundreds of docks, stuff like that. And I understand those areas. Now, there are some boat launches that aren't DEC, they're access permits. You know, we have well, an access permit at the Mayfield office, you know, could be used. The trouble is,
I'm all set. Thank you
late
very much.
here, many boats can't get in there. I don't know how it is right now, but a lot of the boat launches down around the Mayfield, Port Almond area are basically closed now, you know. So I have negotiated with the Mystic Mountain Marina. They have agreed to allow them to take the docks out through their access area. The Water's Edge RV Park has agreed. We could also use possibly the Twisted Tea boat launch there. But I'm looking for other areas because, you know, if the operator has to tow the dock, you know, 5-6 miles to get it out, it really adds to the expense, you know. So we need to identify other areas that we can get it. If we can't use the boat launches, what other access areas that we can use to get it? Trouble is, some of these areas, like the community church of Conklingville, we could use that area. The trouble is that their access permit at this time of year is all muddy and squishy. You know, would end up with a truck or something stuck in there. You know, only thing I know is put some kind of mat down that we could drive down. But that's the type of work that I think we need to be working with, such that we can support the businesses and the people around the lake so that they can use it, and we don't end up with a bunch of broken up docks or people trying to take their dock out. Yesterday, I had a neighbor trying to take the dock out. He was using his truck, trying to get up that ramp. You know, he was not being very successful. I'm glad to say he finally got out, you know, but he had great difficulty getting it out, you know. And, you know, the compromise would have been to tow it down to the boat launch, you know.
I think we understand your comment.
Yeah. Have you tried contacting someone with Smullen, maybe? To see if he could do something?
Yeah.
It might be helpful.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Anybody on Zoom that needs to make a comment?
Anybody else in the audience?
Okay, thank you. Next, we have approval of the September 10th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion.
Any second? Any additions or corrections? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Report of the executive director, Mr. Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The members have had an opportunity to review the report. I'll simply pause for any questions members may have in recognition of the presentation today.
Okay.
Page 12.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Contracts and actions. Resolution authorizing the expenditure, excuse me, of up to $6,000 for additional repairs to the 2008 T320 Bobcat compact track loader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the board will recall, at its September meeting, it authorized the purchase of the new Kubota skid steer or compact track loader. The discussion also involved an intent on the part of regulating district staff to maintain the old Bobcat for work around the Sacandaga field office. But the discussion also included the fact that there is a sensor which causes the bucket to the machine to shut off, sometimes with the bucket in the raised position. In discussions with a few of the board members, I certainly endorse the idea in the interest of safety, in the interest of keeping this other machine running in limited capacity at a much lower cost than the new machine, of moving forward with those repairs. We discussed with both Bobcat of Saratoga, Bobcat of Gloversville, and Bobcat of Schenectady, having identified the best facility to make those repairs, identified Bobcat of Saratoga. And although the estimated cost to effect the repairs still remains under the board authorizing $5,000, we don't want to get there and have it sitting in the garage and then have to come back to the board if it eclipses the $5,000 mark, obviously. So we're asking the board to authorize up to $6,000 to make these repairs on the 2008 Bobcat so we can keep the machine in service at the Sacandaga field office.
And John, after we do that, we got a pretty good piece of equipment then?
Yeah.
For that repair, we got something that's worth putting the money in.
It definitely is, Mr. Reagan, and I think the idea was it's probably for instance, the work that the crew was doing on site, very difficult terrain. It's an old machine, probably not ideal for the sort of tornado work we're engaged in. But with that new stone stockpiling area in the yard there, and for just general work around the site, it'd be a very handy piece of equipment. We believe we can keep it in service for several years. And safely in service.
I'll make that motion if you want somebody to make a motion.
Okay. Second,
I'll second that.
Mr. Reagan, Mr. Hayes.
any further discussion, comments? In that case, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And we are right down to the presentation of design alternatives for Sixth Lake and Old Forge Arcades. The floor is yours.
So we've made several presentations in the past. For those who haven't met me, I'm Mike Kosher. I'm a senior vice president with Arcadis out of the Albany office. With me today, I've got Eric Lanzarada. He's a senior project engineer, the lead design engineer on both dams. So, John, if you will, I'll just go through the agenda real quick. We'll do a health and safety moment, and then I'll turn it over to Eric for the technical part of the presentation. So Arcadis always starts off with a health and safety moment. We'll do that first. We'll go through the status update. You scooped ahead on me, John.
I'm sorry.
There we go. We'll do the Old Forge overview, then the Sixth Lake overview, talk about our next steps moving forward, and then we'll end with open discussion, plenty of time for questions and answers. John, next slide. So our health and safety moment today is just on the dangers of rushing. Rushing can cause you to work less efficiently and less safely, distract you from what's going on and slowing your response, leading to errors and having to rework, stress associated with shortcuts and impulsivity, trying to do too much, and can lead to physical and mental fatigue. Suggestions on how to help manage dangers of rushing: allow extra time, try to expect the unexpected, and take a moment to stop and pause and reflect on where you are and how you're going to achieve your goal. So, real quick status update. We had the 6th and 7th Lake Association presentation this summer. It was fairly well attended. I got some positive feedback from the community and incorporated some of their comments into the 90% design. The 90% design drawings and technical specs are on my desk for review currently. We anticipate having those to the regulating district within the next week or so. The district will have some time to review it. Once they agree, we'll incorporate their comments. And it will then be time for us to submit for project permitting. Eric will go through the permitting requirements in a slide later. And then we will start updating the cost estimate and project schedule. So with that, I will turn it over to Eric for the technical portion of the presentation, and I will be here to add to or interject if necessary, but the floor is yours, Eric.
Okay. Some of you may have seen some of these slides before. We're going to cover both Old Forge and Sixth Lake. Currently, Old Forge as well as Sixth Lake, we're scheduled for a two-phase construction approach, which will basically allow the board to maintain water levels as per the operating rule curve throughout the duration of the project. The project will replace the existing outlet structure with a new enclosure with 2 new gates, stop loss trash racks, new downstream energy dissipation for DEC requirements. Some of the other additions that we've incorporated have been dedicated standby generator for Old Forge, as well as incorporating some of the Town of Webb's master planning that they've asked for to enhance the basin areas. Kind of a general overview to call attention to some of those areas. This is the kind of standard, the finished plan of the site. We'll have a kind of working from the top down. There'll be a new log boom, which would be a Worthington tough boom or appropriate alternate. The new gate enclosure with maintained operational control. That'll be accessed from an area that will be where the previous canoe launch is. That canoe launch would be filled in order to create a new level area. It also addresses some other concerns about public safety that have come up, and it may be ensuring that we kind of create a buffer between the public and the hydraulics that are going to feed the water over the Labyrinth spillway. New standby generator will be in a chain link enclosure with privacy slats adjacent to an existing pole. It'll have I believe it is a 72-hour operational time. That's base load, basically idle running lights and things like that. That can be extended, obviously, if it is turned off and not when it's not needed. It'll be on an automatic transfer switch. New downstream apron would be required energy dissipation, transitioning back into the existing channel. On the left side, so actually we're on the north side, we'll have, there's going to be some bathymetric grading to help with hydraulics, and then there's an existing wooden boardwalk that is actually going to be removed and regrassed to restore match the existing hillside. A little bit further to the east, part of the master planning, we've incorporated new dockage extending out from the existing bulkhead, as well as a new asphalt path coming down off the parking lot down to the existing bulkhead. In phase 1, we'll be working on the south side of the dam. We're going to cofferdam off the facility. That'll allow operations through the existing outlet structure and the existing spillway will remain in place. While the new outlet structure and a portion of the new spillway is constructed, we'll be providing temporary discharge and erosion controls. And this would also be when the canoe area would be modified. During this time, the board will have, or the district will have, full control of the water levels. We expect no changes. It's been incorporated into the plans as directed. So water level will be seasonal as per the rule curve. Again, you'll have a standby generator. And then it has been discussed that one of the later additions has been some temporary post-tension anchors to stabilize the dam. During construction, this came about after some constructability concerns were raised. All right. In phase 2, we will flip the cofferdam. The newly constructed gate enclosure will become the operational controls, as well as part of the spillway will be in place. During this time, the flows will go through the southern portion of the project, while the northern portion of the project is isolated. The existing structures are demoed, and the new labyrinth spillway and the remainder of the discharge apron is constructed. This will be the time when the bulkhead's modified, the docks are installed, as well as the new path is installed. Once completed, temporary structures will be removed, final grass and surface treatments will be applied, and the site will be restored back to the final conditions. At Sixth Lake, it will also have a two-phase construction approach similar to Old Forge. Again, we'll be replacing the existing outlet structure with a new gate enclosure, 2 dedicated vertical lift gates, trash racks, stop logs, new downstream apron, a dedicated standby generator, and an automatic transfer switch. And we have also identified some temporary parking areas that coming about from the presentation over the summer. Kind of overall final condition and some notable items. So working from the north, the new gate enclosure, replacing the existing one, a dedicated standby generator, kind of tucked as best we can, tucked off to the side. Again, in a chain link fence enclosure with privacy slots. New energies dissipation in the spillway structure, new labyrinth spillway, the discharge apron, and erosion control outside of the spillway structure consisting of riprap apron. Based on the information we have for property areas, we've identified an area to the north of Sixth Lake Road that appears to be owned by the district that may be suitable for the additional parking that, but we, again, that'll have to be something that will need to be further evaluated. In phase 1, we will isolate the southern part of the structures, which consists primarily of the existing embankment. During that time, we'll construct a portion of the labyrinth spillway, concrete approaches, discharge, and also install a temporary gate that will be installed in a portion of the labyrinth that will be used during phase 1 to provide the district with control of water levels during that time. Again, per the directions, the water levels will be maintained by the district as part of, in addition, per the rules for the structure. In phase 2, we'll switch the cofferdams around, leaving the newly constructed spillway to manage flows, as well as the temporary gate, which will give the district control. That will be abandoned. That will be removed and closed out at the end of the project. but during the phase two, provide a little bit of bathymetric grading, finish or construct the new gate enclosure, remainder of the labyrinth, remainder of downstream discharge aprons, and also install the new dedicated generator. Getting into the next steps, as Mike mentioned, the district will be receiving their 90% review document shortly. Concurrent with that, or just slightly after comments are received back on that, we will begin outreach to the town of Webb and the town of Inlet, making sure that we're getting coordination with both, identifying any permits, and any other site constraints that we need to be made aware of at that time. We'll begin the permitting process. We understand that there is a memorandum of understanding with the DEC and the district regarding permitting that may be applicable. We'll be looking into the 401 and 404 permitting. We will be preparing dam safety permits for both structures. That's the D1 supplemental. We'll be engaging with the Army Corps to make sure that there are no additional permitting that we need to be made aware of for that, as well as the Adirondack Park Agency, Office of Parks, and also preparing the secret report. We're assuming at this point is the short form EAF. Following that, we'll be preparing the cost estimate based on any last revisions that need to be made to the design, as well as updating the schedule and preparing the 100% construction documents for issuance.
So for benefit of people who may not have attended the previous presentation, anticipated timeline for permitting and bidding and construction start?
You're looking to have all of that prepared for contract award in the summer of next year, and then potential mobilization in following Labor Day of next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Your cost estimate, when you give that to us, what's that gonna be, plus or minus?
I don't want to misspeak. It will be a level 2.
I don't know what level 2 is. So.
It is in the order of like a plus or minus 10%. But I may be slightly incorrect with those percentages, but it will be a narrower band.
But you're in that area, around 10%.
Ideally,
It might be
ideally,
something.
yes. I mean, you really don't know until bid day, right? That's the unfortunate.
Well, that's why I'm kind of asking you, because,
The goal is to be within that percentage, yes. That'll be the conversation.
Hey, well, is there any chance it'd be minus? I'm only kidding, go on.
I can add a lot more into the.
I just wondered.
As engineers, our goal is to not be the low bidder on bid day.
Well, you know what, that's an honest answer, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Brooks.
Are these projects to be done simultaneously?
They were designed to be done simultaneously, and my understanding is it will be that simultaneously.
Okay. And an approximate timeline on the phase 1 and phase 2?
It'll be, the overall project duration is estimated currently at about 2 years.
Okay.
It'll depend on the contractor, but roughly a 2-year time.
And it will be one single project with the same contractor doing both dam rehabilitations.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to staff and committee reports. General Counsel, Mr. Lester.
My report is on page 15. I continue to engage with the General Recoveries Unit of the Civil Recovery Bureau at the Department of Law. They have indicated that Erie has failed to address the nature of their requests and that they are, they meaning the Civil Recoveries Bureau, are drafting a complaint. So we should expect a summons and complaint. By my figuring, Erie owes us about 3.1 million for their failure to remunerate us for their use of the Haddock pump. I guess that's about it. We still don't have any definitive answer from Stillwater. John, I don't know how much you want to get into at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do it. I just, to be frank, I think it's maybe 3 months since we had an agreement with the new operator for Stillwater Hydroelectric Plant on language. They've worked through some insurance issues in getting the coverage that we require to execute that contract. We've been patient and accommodating, and certainly our goal and our interest and our wish is to see that plant generating and begin realizing that revenue. And I'll just point again, before Tim jumps out of his chair to do it, that all that revenue does is cut our losses a little bit because we have very expensive FERC requirements by virtue of the hydro plant being there. So I think we're at the end of this effort to enter into an agreement with the operator and see them begin operating that plant. We're certainly not going to be back here a month from now telling you we're still working on it. So we've had, Mr. Leslie has had an exchange with the operator's attorney recently. I'm going to reinforce that later today, and I think it is the time to fish or cut the proverbial bait here. So. And then of course we would be engaged with the board and the executive chamber on if this isn't going to happen, what do we do? Another discussion.
On the other one, Rob, just, they're gonna have to sue to get them to do anything here at Erie Boulevard. When are they gonna start that process?
So I wanted them to do so for several months, several quarters, really. I get the sense that their level of frustration is approaching my level of frustration, to the extent that they actually said, I'm drafting a complaint, which is the last step before they file suit. When that's going to happen is out of my control. But the fact that they are as frustrated as I am with Erie's failure to negotiate, failure to explain why they don't want to negotiate, and the free ride that they've been on, suggests to me that if she's drafting, it's not going to take her that long to draft it. I basically gave her the whole fact pattern, and I presented the law to her in the way that we thought it should be drafted. Obviously, they'll have their own ideas, but that's as close as I can get to
So
the answer.
you can't even say whether something will move forward before the end of the year.
I can't. I don't want to promise something that I don't have any control over.
Just curious.
That said, I'm feeling pretty good that they're on board and getting ready to pursue it.
Can the interest, if I read this thing right, the interest now that they have to pay on what they owe us is kicking in?
Yes, so there's two possible avenues. The one is because we have chosen to secure our payment from Erie through the Civil Recoveries Bureau, the Civil Recoveries Bureau itself is entitled to 22% of the recovery. That's one side. The other side is because Erie owes us a great deal of money, and we will soon file a complaint seeking that money. Interest will begin to accrue from a judgment on that, and I don't remember exactly what New York State's statutory interest is. It was 9% when I was in law school. I think it's lower than that at this point, maybe 6%. But that will continue to accrue, and if Erie doesn't pay us, that will quickly dwarf the amount that they actually owe us.
Okay, so they're not paying interest on that money yet.
They're not paying interest yet.
And then we pay somebody in the state of New York, recovery.
Yep.
We pay them X amount to go after the money.
Yes.
Then if we're paying them, why can't we tell them we want this to move forward? Just curious, I mean, since we're paying them that money,
We can.
they aren't doing it for free.
We can. The problem is that they work for a different elected official than we work for. The AG is elected independently of the governor, and it's, we can't tell them what to do.
I would say though, would you agree, Rob, that the Attorney General's office has been pretty responsive?
Oh, they've been great. They've been very responsive.
You know, I think for us, it's the most important issue. We look at it every day. It drives us crazy that somebody's getting something for free on Wednesday that they were paying $1.5 million a year for on Tuesday, and still deriving the same benefit, and then just pushing those expenses downstream on the backs of taxpayers in Ocean County. So it's incredibly frustrating to us. But I think that the pace, I would not describe this by, getting something done through the Office of Attorney General standards as slow. I think I'm encouraged that it's gotten to the point where they're preparing the complaint, and I just wanted to, from my perspective, they've been.
I'm looking at it from a business perspective, you guys, and so I'm looking at it, you're paying us through a bunch of money for recovery. These guys are taking the service and aren't giving us anything for it. They're not paying any interest on the money. They have no reason to try to go and resolve this until they get sued, and nobody's doing it. And so I just don't understand the differences and how people look at things, so I'll shut up.
Is it fair to say that they're paying their contingent on a contingency basis?
22%.
So we are not writing a check.
But we're going to, somebody's gonna pay us at some point in time.
If we are successful
For this.
If we are not successful, there's no outlay.
Well, then we got a bigger issue.
We've been living with for 15 months now.
Your level of frustration is matched by mine.
Yours is a lot higher, I'm sure.
And is beginning to be matched by the Attorney General. They have been very responsive. They've been quick to understand our plight, inquisitive as to the basis for our claim. I really do think that it is a priority for them to pursue. Obviously, we have one priority, they have many.
I'll just note also, Rob, if it's okay to do so, that part of this collaboration with the Attorney General over the last few months has been instructions on how to properly send Erie one demand letter, then a separate demand letter, and then the Attorney General crafting and sending them their own demand letter, all of which needed to happen before we got to this step. And that's, so, and there has been stuff happening,
right.
But I don't know that completely addresses your point, but we've been moving the ball forward.
And also independent of us, the Attorney General has been meeting with counsel for Erie and, making their overtures. It is a polite thing to do. It is what you would expect your attorney to do against an opponent, give the opponent an opportunity to say their piece. And the Attorney General has asked for exactly what we asked for from Erie. Give us your evaluation, give us your estimate of the worth of what we're asking you to pay. And Erie's counsel, of course, said absolutely, we'll get it right over to you. And as time has gone by, the Attorney General has realized what we did. Erie isn't forthcoming with that information. So I think that's why the frustration is building for the AAG.
Any further comments, questions for Mr. Leslie? Thank you very much. Director of Administrative Services, Mr. Zaki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report is found on page 16. During the reporting period, I completed the quarterly compliance audit at the Second Dogville Field Office. New permit applications were reviewed to ensure proper procedures are in place. We are working with our vendors to prepare for the upcoming renewal season. The cover letter is being revised, and we're considering a hybrid approach where as people get online, now get the online notification and not also get a paper renewal, which will allow us to rely more on the online process that we wanted to roll out a few years ago, and the cost savings that we're not going to be putting out 5,000 renewals. We're also hoping to move forward with the work permit application on the database, where people can apply for work permit online, with that option, pay right online. Other than that, pages 17, 18, and 19 are the contract status sheets. They're included in each board meeting in the packet because they satisfy the public reporting requirement. If you have any questions, if not, that concludes my report.
Any questions or comments? Thank you very much. Chief Engineer, Mr. Fulton.
Mr. Chairman, my report is begins on page 42. It's seen in the drafts representing the reservoir elevations were well underway and successfully drawing down as we quickly do. And it's slightly below our target elevations at our three larger reservoirs, with having only received about 30 to 60% of precipitation in September as of the 24th in the Hudson River area, and about 20% in the Black River area. Our smaller reservoirs, Old Forge 6 Lake, are right on target, actually extending the summer water recreation as we have for quite a few years, continuing to maintain those summertime elevations until next week, and then Thursday of next week we will begin the drawdown. That will be started with a larger release at Old Forge to supply water to the Moose Fest that occurs every year in Moose River, and then from that point out we attempt to target and maintain a drawdown consistent with our target elevation. Also attached to my report is a summary of the construction activities at Indian Lake, and maybe one of the most notable, with a smaller photo toward the end, but it's fair to say that it's the stone dam is completely sealed. The leaks that we have been experiencing for several decades have been sealed, grouted, and that leakage has been stopped. The contractor also has made progress on raising the core wall, as you can see on photo 5 and 6. At the embankment, and continues to make progress on repairing and replacing the bulkhead leak. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Very good. Any questions?
That lady from Stillwater called, they wanted to know about that. Up at Paper River Station.
Yeah.
She's.
Oh. Who is that?
No, she didn't come.
No?
She talked to you last year, we were out there. Yes.
Okay. They're never mad, they just have concerns.
Finally, Chief Fiscal Officer, Mr. Manini.
Mr. Chair, back to page 20 of your packet for the CFO report. Bank investment balances through the first 3 months of the fiscal year are down significantly from the same period last year. This arises mostly from the regulating district's continued pay-as-you-go financing of the Indian Lake Dam Rehabilitation Project. The significant year-over-year reduction in the assessment in the Hudson River area and timing assessment collections in both areas. I also noted in my report that the regulating district completed its investment and financial statement audits for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2024. The auditors will report to the audit committee at its next meeting on November 13th at the Sutton Valley Field Office. And I do not want to get too far ahead of them, but we'll report that we continue to make very significant progress in improving the regulated district's net position, as you can see from this graph, and which I emailed to everyone yesterday. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the regulating district's finances.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Move on to board member questions and comments. Hearing none. I'd like a resolution for our next board meeting, which is Wednesday. Note that, please. It's November 13th, 2024. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Hayes, Mr. Byrd.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss the bank's improper payment of a fraudulent check and summons and complaint delivered in connection with an injury during Indian Lake rehabilitation. We have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Reagan? Second?
I'll make this second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There will be no votes coming out of the executive session, so we will be done.
And we'll adjourn immediately thereafter.
Yeah.
So Megan, if you could just